Finally, we got to close. You got to close an argument in front of people. Have you noticed in dog yards there are two kinds of dogs? You know, there's little yappy dogs, right? I hate yappy dogs. I had a Chihuahua for years. I wanted to kick it every day. Seriously, don't you? Anybody here have a Chihuahua? Raise your hand. Let's pray for these people right now. Because you know, in a yard full of dogs, that Chihuahua is always the meanest, nastiest dog in the yard. Why? Because it has an inferiority complex that it wants to make up with noise. Now, meanwhile, in the same yard, you introduce a Great Dane. Great Dane comes in, doesn't make a sound at all, never barks, never has to bark. Why? Because it's huge. It has nothing to prove. It's not trying to puff up. Now, do you realize when it comes to all worldviews that are out there, ways of which you can see the world, Christianity is the one worldview that actually describes the world accurately. It stands up. Some of the best philosophers in the country, in the world today, are Christians. Did you know that? And they're renowned. They are respected because Christianity, it turns out, when it comes to worldviews, Christianity is the big dog. So my question is, why do you sound like a Chihuahua? And sometimes we do. Like it's fight or flight. Someone challenges us, we get all puffed up, we get all nasty about it. I know because we role play as atheists at churches around the country, Sean McDowell and I, and it doesn't take but 15 minutes into the role playing when the audience turns incredibly nasty. Look, we're just role playing as atheists. We're not really atheists, okay? And they get nasty. Why? Because they're not sure, they can't defend themselves. And when they run out of ways to defend themselves, they start to get barky. Don't do that. Know the case well enough to know that you do not have to act like a Chihuahua. You are the big dog. And last thing, when we do cases, it's not just a single attorney who's presenting the case in front of a jury. That attorney has help behind the scenes, paralegals, other attorneys they consult with. And they have people in the office who are actually supporting them on a daily basis with information and advice, support. Also, they're the cops who started the whole process, who are there to provide information to them, answer questions, and run errands and do all kinds of other stuff that we had to do. And then there are experts that are actually going to testify in that. In the end, what I'm trying to say here is that this is a team effort. Every criminal trial is a team effort. Now, I bet there have been times when you felt like your efforts to share the gospel, to share what Jesus did for us, feels like a game of tennis. I felt this way because I would be with my dad, talking to my dad. It's like it's just you and the other person in that net, right? You hit it, he hits it back. You hit it, he hits it back. You hit it, oh, it's out of bounds. Oh, it's all on you. You hit it out of bounds. It's all your fault. You didn't win today. It's just you and him. It's not the way this works. It's not a game of tennis. Evangelism is a game of baseball. And some people take years to run the bases. And we as a team are going to work to help them go from base to base. Here's how I drew it in Forensic Faith. It's a team effort. There's times when I'm sure you feel this way. When I'm going to see my dad, right? I do chapels for the Green Bay Packers. Don't ask me how that started. But anyway, so I will follow the Packers around. I've got a chapel this year in Detroit on New Year's Eve. Green Bay is playing in Detroit. So I'm taking my dad. I'm going to fly into Dallas, drive out and get him, go back to Dallas, fly to Detroit. And we're going to do the chapel, and then we're going to have Sunday and watch the game. And I know I will feel compelled on that day to hit a home run. I wish I could say something that would bring him to faith on that day. I think we all feel that way, like we have to hit home runs, or we haven't done anything positive. That's not true. Look, you don't know where people are standing on the base path. They might just be on first base. They might be on third. You don't know where they are. You do not have to hit a home run. Make contact with the ball. That's it. Just get off your butt, get off the bench, go up to just try to bunt. Just do something. And with that little thing you're going to do that causes them to think seriously for the first time, it's going to advance them on the base path. And then later on, I hear people all the time, yeah, you know, I didn't take this seriously, but 10 years ago, someone said this to me, and then 5 years ago, my daughter got married, and her husband was talking to me at dinner, and then they got like a 10-year story of how the case for Christianity was presented to them, or how the gospel was slowly revealed to them. So this is why when I'm out and I'm talking to people, and I really want to share my faith, because I don't know if I'm moving them from first to second, I could be, or from second to third, or from third to home. I don't know where I'm moving them. I don't get hung up on it anymore. I don't. If I can get a home run, great. But if I don't get a home run, I'm okay with it. Because you don't know where they are. Now, on the other hand, if I'm talking to somebody and they come to faith right in front of me, I don't take too much credit for that either, right? Because I've had people who will do this, right? And they'll come back and say, hey, I led a guy to Christ. Yeah, congratulations, that's good. But remember, he was on third base leaning in from 10 years of other people hitting bunts, so shut up, okay? Don't get too full of yourself because, you don't blame yourself if you can't move him, and don't credit yourself if he moves. Because this is a team sport. It's a sport of baseball. But you do have an obligation, and that is to get off your butt and do something. Now, I've said it before, that cops do have a tendency to see the world between two extremes, sheep and wolves. I want to leave you with this duty, a calling for all of you. We think, as cops, that we have to protect sheep from wolves. This is our job. That's why all the sheepdog ministries in America are cop or military ministries. Why? Because we see the sheepdog as the other animal in the yard that protects the sheep from the wolves. And by the way, the sheep do not like wolves, and they don't like sheepdogs. They don't. They're annoying. They're always pushing them around, telling them what to do. They bark, they sound. They're both canines. They're both in the same family. So I'm not surprised that sheep don't like sheepdogs. I get that. Now, we're described as sheep in the Bible, right? That's not a compliment. Because sheep are super stupid. Okay, they are. And they have no idea what they're even getting picked off by wolves. But I'll tell you, sheepdogs are important because if we had a yard full of sheepdogs, we would not have a wolf problem. We have a wolf problem both in culture and in the church because we don't have enough sheepdogs. We have a lot of sheep. Everyone in this room, you're in a great church. I know this church, okay? And you know you're in a great church. And regardless of what happens with this building going forward, if you guys can't survive the next 4 months to be in a church like this, then shame on you. Get out of here now. You don't even deserve to be here. Seriously. So I'm telling you, you can get through the next 4 months no problem because you're in a place where Jack is slowly turning sheep into sheepdogs. And that's what we're called to do. Now, the kind of sheepdog is all I'm trying to encourage you. I know in this church you're going to be a sheepdog. But I want you to be a certain kind. I went running with my wife in the foothills here, and I'll tell you, we saw a post. I am not kidding you. On this run, we saw a post where somebody had posted a picture of a lost dog, and you know what it was? It was a Chihuahua. And if you saw that picture in that environment of that little lost Chihuahua, you know what we're thinking, right? That ain't good. Now, had that Chihuahua been a Great Dane, we would not have worried about it, because Great Danes can survive in that environment. Now, if you were to go look for that Chihuahua, where are you going to look? I'm going to check every coyote dropping from here to the end of that trail, because that's where your little Chihuahua is right there, okay? Right? Okay. Now, if you had a Great Dane, I'm not going to look at those droppings because Great Danes can survive. I'm going to go to the pound, and that's where the shelter. That's where the Great Dane's going to be. So my question for all of you as you leave here tonight, and I'm calling you to be sheepdogs, is which of these two will you be? Don't bark, make a lot of noise, and don't be in the coyote dropping. Make sense? Let's pray.